All right. Good to have everybody here. Thank you, Billy, for inviting me. As you may have guessed, this is an extremely wild horse, but it was. And I've had this horse for I think eight months, and I got him. He was a reassignment. Somebody had adopted him and couldn't keep him, and so otherwise I never would have got one with color, because I instituted that policy that if for the program you can just go out and select out the prettier horses. So, but I got a call, and an 87-year-old lady had adopted this horse, and a few months later called the BLM and said, I have no idea what I was thinking. Yeah, when they come out of the wild, they have to have a 6-foot-high panel. Matter of fact, I think the last time we did a message with the horse, I rode the horse for the first time in that event, and I think we had 6-foot panels on that. They'll try to clear a 5-foot. And I did, actually, the last time, it was the very first ride on that horse. It was in a clinic, and I thought, I'm not sure if this is really smart or stupid, but it worked out okay. So this horse here was, where's Pastor Billy? Your mule, remember, was this horse was trying to, keep, be in the process. Billy's mule was braying and amen, and I think is what he's actually doing. Right. So what I want to do, I'm going to get this horse moving. I want to talk about being transformed. And I started learning a lot from these horses, working with them. I started working with the wild horses in '93. By probably, I'm going to guess by 2000, I was doing clinics for the BLM all around the state on how to gentle. So we would do clinics. I would sometimes do 10, 12 horses in a weekend, that just wild horses. They'd bring them in, and some of it makes you look good, some of it makes you look like you don't know one thing. So, but that's life, isn't it? So I want to talk about transformation. I'm going to get this horse doing what I have every horse doing, and that is just get it moving. There's a scripture in Revelation that I think of, Revelation 3:15. He says, I wish that you were what? Hot or cold, but not lukewarm. Here's what I believe he's saying. He says, when God walks into the arena of your life, do something. Run from him, run to him, but don't be indifferent to the fact that he's there. When I walk into this arena, this horse needs to respond to me, and I'll ensure that it does. So you're either going to run from me or run to me. So, well, isn't running from God the wrong thing? Well, it's doing something. It may not be the right thing, but have you ever thought, you know what? I think God's kind of after me. I'm just going to get away. I think I'll run. How did that work out for you? What happens is, just like this horse, you go, you know what? I'm doing a lot of running, but he hasn't changed. I run him on both sides, and I want both of these eyes to focus on me. And then what I'll start doing is just getting him to stop and face me. And I'll just cue him, so okay, stop, face me. And then, now he's coming along a little quicker. This is the first time I've ever tried it with him. I'm totally joking. Usually with a wild horse, it usually takes me about 15, 20 minutes to get them where they're turning and facing me. And then here's what I'll do with every one of them. I'll start working. I'll just put an imaginary spot on the hip, and I'll say I want this hip to move that way. I want this hip to move that way, and then I'll give him a break. I want this hip to move that way. I don't want you moving towards me, just your hip. There we go. And then I'll give him a break. It's amazing how quick they catch on. Here's what I do. I try to find every opportunity to say yes. All the promises of God are what? Yes and amen. In other words, God's looking for opportunity to say yes. There's an interesting verse in Job, and I believe it's 14, verse 15 or 16. But he says this. He says, God counts all my steps, but he doesn't keep track of my sins. I like that. In other words, nothing escapes him. He counts them all, but he says, he's not saying, hey, you blew it there. Matter of fact, you're chalking up more wrongs than rights. And you know, in the final thing, it's just how many rights you got and how many wrongs you didn't get. That's how. Is that how you end up going to heaven? Well, you got more. I checked off a lot of rights. You did a lot of good things. Man, we'd all be in trouble. By grace. He said, oh, that was right. So what I do is I just try to get this horse to start responding. Then I say, yes, I'll do this. And with the inmates, I don't preach to them, but I'm always teaching biblical principles. And we've had a couple of inmates come to Christ. We had one inmate recently that he got approved for early release before he started in the program, started working with the horses. He came to Christ. He went to the complex and said, can I waive my early release? I want to stay and work with horses. They said, no, you can't. So here's what I do is I try to find opportunity to say, yes, yes, yes. Then I'll say, then I'll just get them to take a step towards me. Now if they don't, I'll say, okay, you can run if you want to. Now if you want to take a step towards me, you can. I say, oh, that works out better because the running thing just isn't really working out well for me. Now here's why I say yes, yes rather than no. This horse can go up, down, right, left, forwards, backwards. There's six things this horse can do, and what I'm wanting him to do, it's one. So he has more opportunity to make the wrong thing than the right thing. So I'll just keep working him, and I don't always correct him every time he does something wrong. So you can just keep running if you want to, and then as soon as you do the right thing, you'll have peace. If you want to keep running, you keep running. I'm not going to say, oh, man, I've got lightning. Aren't you glad that you're not God? Once you look back, a lot of people would not be here. So you're not doing it right. You're not doing it right. Well, what will happen with a horse if you keep on every little thing? You're not doing that right. You're not doing that right. You're not doing right. Eventually they'll lock up. You think they're trained? They just locked up. They said, "What's the use?" You know what locking up's a lot like? Legalism. Legalism will lock you up. So, well, what's the use? Man, I'm going to go to church. I'll dress right. I'll sing. I'll do everything just right. But I don't know that God really even cares about me. He's just up there with a hammer waiting to hit me. So I better get it right. I was early on in pastoring. I was a police officer before I was a pastor, and so I was working chaplaincy and I started pastoring a church. And I tell you, when you start, there was a lovely couple came, very traditional and very legalistic, but loved God. A wonderful couple. And they were in the church for some time. It was at early stages. It was getting started, and I just really appreciated everything. And he came to me and he said, I said, I want to talk to you. He said, I've been having a problem. He said, when I stop at a stoplight, he said, I'll fall asleep. He said, I don't know what's wrong. I'm going into the doctor and I want you to be praying. He went to the doctor, came out and said, the doctor said, I've got bad news. He said, you've got a malignant tumor in your brain, inoperable, it's fast growing. And so he came to me, he was just broken. But he wasn't broken, I mean, obviously about the fact that his life was ending. Here's what he said, I'll never forget it. He said, I know why I have brain cancer. I said, why is that? He said, it was a few months back. He said, I was in a convenience store and there was some inappropriate material, I would assume Playboy, something like that, on the shelf. He said, my eyes looked at that. He said, my eyes lingered too long. And so God gave me cancer. I so wanted, I thought, I'm not going to undo years of legalism and tradition. But here's the guy who was locked up. A few months later, he died. And I thought, how sad that he didn't realize it had nothing to do with it. And I really mean that. You know, God doesn't, and I'm going to say this carefully, God doesn't care so much about what you have done or what you're doing. He cares more about who you are, because who you are will ultimately determine what you do. God's always working on who we are. So if this horse makes a mistake, I'm not going to say, oh, you stupid horse, you made a mistake. Man, I'm going to get you. But I'm going to say, okay, let's keep doing that till you get it right. So here's what I'm going to do. Now, here's what I do with the inmates. I'll say, you guys want to know how I can tell, the best way I can tell the next step this horse is going to take? I'll show you. Right where that rear is pointed, that's not the next step he's going to take. Where he gets his rear pointed, he's going to move away from that. And if you want to get the next step in life, if you've got something that you can't get over, something in your past, get it behind you. So let's, I don't want to pick on you, but let's say you're right over there is temptation. So I'm going to say, okay, if I want to get temptation behind me, if I want to move forward, I'm going to get something behind me. You know how you do that? There's a term in the Bible called godliness. Godliness with contentment is a great gain. The Bible says we're to put on godliness. Godliness literally means Godwardness. God will this is so good. I mean, this is something I learned about me. God will position Himself in your life at the place where you cannot help but focus on Him and get the past behind you. He'll get the opposite side of that thing, and you focus on Him, and you will find yourself getting the past behind you. So it's not saying, man, I've got to get it behind. No, if I focus on God, God will put Himself in a position where my past is behind me. So it's following Him. I can't follow Him and go backwards. There's the old song, the world behind me, what? Cross before me, no looking back and no turning back. So I'll start working on those hips, and then this becomes the comfort zone. I've had horses that would follow me all around. I couldn't touch them, and this guy's not like that. Matter of fact, I've got to teach him a little distance and respect. So what I'll start doing is, now I learned this by accident. I would try to run him off by doing this. And then after a while they said, when he does that, I've got to run off, so if I come towards him, hey, you better not do that. And this guy here, he's still in training, but he's coming along really well. So then I'll just start rubbing him down, rubbing him all over. I'm pretty mean to him. I just do stuff like that and say, see how he does with that. The other day I had him wear a blue tarp, because most of them in the wild have been attacked at one time or another by a blue tarp, I'm convinced. Blue tarps. So I'll just do all that. Did you ever wonder why it is that sometimes in life things don't go right? It's not fair. Maybe you're in the round pen. You see, here's what I don't want. I don't want this horse to get really good at round pens. I want him to get really good. I took him on October, we went on elk hunt. We're all over. We're going over stuff, through stuff, but I want him to learn in the round pen because I want him to function well out there. God has you in a round pen. Working with wild horses, a lot safer than working with church people. Wild horse may hurt you because he's afraid. Church people will kill you because the music's too loud. I mean, it's a different world. So what I want him to do. So this is my point is, sometimes relationships with other people's a round pen. So man, why do I always keep encountering just stupid people? Maybe you need to learn to deal with stupid people. And you say, well, okay, maybe if I learn that, then what does that really prove? Well, maybe later on in life you'll find something where you deal with a stupid person, or a person you thought was stupid, and you find out that God was in the whole thing. I'm not suggesting that God orchestrates every problem, but I am telling you that I believe in every problem God can teach you something. Every one. So what I'm going to do with this horse, can we bring in that obstacle? And what I do, I find obstacles for the horses to work around. And if they can work around obstacles in a safe environment, then he's saying, I'm ready to go home. You want to know the hardest inmate to teach to train is inmates that have trained before. We've got inmates in that they've never even been in a pen. I had one the other day. He said, I've never touched a horse before, so well, let's get on one. And so had him riding. Why don't we do this, guys? Let's try this. Just try it right there. Take the head saw off, if you would. Just dump that right there. And this is either going to really make it look nice or make me look dumb. So, and I've looked dumb before, so here's what I want to do. I was going to put it up against there. I want this horse to get up on the pedestal without me touching him, ideally. Now, what you do is make the wrong thing hard, the right thing easy. So, you want to come here? We'll see if this will work. There's another way of teaching this, so this takes me a little time. Just be patient. So we get close, and I take the pressure off. Say, okay, well, that's where I want you to be. And they can look at it. They can do whatever they want to with it. What I'll usually do is put it on the side and start them out that way. So what I have right now, I've got pretty much control of the rear, and the shoulders are coming in. If this takes too long, so that behavior there, trust me, we'll work on that at home. we're not doing that. Say, horse whisperer, he's a horse screamer. Nope. So here's what I'll do. I'll just keep here and say, we've got an obstacle, and we're going to keep going back to that obstacle. Until you conquer the obstacle, you realize that obstacle is. So he has peace when he's around the obstacle. Now, in your life, why is it, do you think, that you end up with just the man seems like every time I turn around, that same problem's there? I get rid of one person, and I've got another one, seems like, waiting in the wings. So maybe God is saying, what I want you to do is face the problems until you conquer them. You know, Stetson, you can make it really good here, don't you? What I was going to do is have it put up. We'll go ahead and do this little haul on the side. So here's what we'll do. We'll say, okay, you got enough energy to run, we'll have you run. And when he gets close to the obstacle, okay, you can rest close there. So he doesn't want me to get close to his rear, which is part of what we do in teaching. So he's a 3-year-old gelding that probably just coming on 3.5. He's out of a wild herd in Wyoming, the Salt Walls herd up there, and there's some nice horses come out of there. There's a few that are my favorite herds just over the years. I like the way they move and they listen. So usually what I do, this is just a motivator. Now, anytime he turns away from me, I'll make him come back and turn towards me. And rest there. When you know that they're starting to pick up trainings, when they start licking their lips, start chewing a little bit. Say, okay, you can rest right there. So all I'm doing is saying where the obstacle is, as you're getting ready to overcome the obstacle, I'll give you some peace. So now it's saying I kind of want to stay by this, but I don't really know that. There we go. Helping out a little, but not much. All right. Good boy. Now, since he has some basic cues, and one is to stop. See if I can do that. So what happens when they start understanding that the obstacle isn't something that's going to trip them up, but that's where they rest. Here's a couple things that happens. And I'm going to ride him up here on it in a minute, I think. But we'll see. So, but here's a couple things that happen. One, he understands that the next obstacle